All right. Good morning, Zach. It's Friday, and yeah, let's just get this out of the way. There's tons of pressure on you, tons of pressure on this podcast. You asked me
Yeah.
right before we started what our plus minus is since we started doing this podcast. I don't know, but it's at least over 60, 70. We're
It's up there. It is, man, since we started 4-0 and we've had two dominant wins. So it's been fun, but I guess we're on to Cleveland. We gotta, pressure's on.
so I wanted to start with this, right? Because I guess if you watch a lot of ESPN, a lot of whatever you're watching, the Ravens are all over the place.
Yeah.
And we're breaking down why the defense is so good. And by Friday, like, man, what's been said that hasn't been said, right? And the thing that's going to be most interesting to Ravens fans that have been following this team from the very beginning is we have to make room for what our best player in the secondary. Like, what's going on here? Marcus Williams, the games that he plays, he looks like the best player out there. Then he's not out
Even
here.
with one arm. Even with one arm.
Then we're the best defense without him. Now I'm looking at the roster and it's like, okay, someone's got to take a step back. He can't just come in and play, he's just in and stones out, obviously. So how do you see it playing out? We feel like, I'll set you up this way. It feels like we're positionless in a lot of different ways. So can you elaborate and give us your 2 cents on how does Marcus Williams get integrated into the number one defense?
I think you kind of just said it, it's a positionless defense. And I don't think it's crazy to think that we could see 75 to 80% of the snaps with three safeties out there, Geno Stone, Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton, and you see Kyle Hamilton go closer to the line, play more of the slot in the nickel, and really see where he excelled last year in making plays near the line of scrimmage, stuff like that. So I think you move him up more. I mean, you can't take Geno Stone off the field. I mean, the guy, whether you think it's luck or skill, the man just finds the football right now. So, and then like you said, then our issue right now is we have to find a way to get our best player in the secondary back into it. So it's a fantastic problem to have for Mike Macdonald, that's for sure.
I was gonna say the fact that Marcus Williams is paid makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier. So he's already paid, meaning he won't mind taking a few less snaps.
Yeah.
Hamilton and Stone have not been paid. Stevens has not been paid. And that's just the bottom line. The guys have to, that's part of the calculus of playing professional sports. So I think it makes it easier for McDonald to say, hey, listen, look, why don't, you don't have to play every snap. And then why don't we specifically talk about, the matchup against Cleveland? Because in certain situations, we'll want to have, extra defensive backs on the field. I think Cleveland thinks arrogantly that they're going to beat us at our own game, just like running the ball. So what's your outlook here from Cleveland? It feels like let me set you up this way. I've been down on the Ravens, a little pessimistic. That's out there. It is what it is. I just didn't think we were going to be this efficient. I don't see a pathway though for Cleveland. Like I saw a pathway for Seattle last week. I don't know how Cleveland's going to move the ball. What are your thoughts on this game?
It's fine. We've done this. So this is our fifth episode. I think we've played the exact same offense 5 straight weeks. They are going to try to establish the run and work off the play action. And it really is going to be very similar to a Seattle, to a Detroit, to a Tennessee. I'm not going to throw the Cardinals in there because that was just that was
They don't really
anything that was happening in Arizona, you just didn't know what was going on. They were mid-game, like trading their quarterback. So it's going to be, like you said, they're going to try to establish the run. I think that's where our front seven is going to make the difference in this game. A lot of talk this week has been how the Ravens have dominated in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And like we talk about, that's where you win football games. And Cleveland thinks they're going to come in and do that. They're going to establish the run. They're going to play great defense. They're going to get after Lamar with a 4-man rush. And they're going to try to win that way. But I don't know if that's possible. And especially the big thing that sticks out to me is Cleveland's missing Willis, their left tackle. So they're moving DeJuan Jones, the rookie from Ohio State, from right tackle to left tackle, which he only's played 80 snaps in college at. So if you've never played offensive line before, it's not as easy as it thinks to just go, oh, right tackle, and now you're left tackle. You now have to reverse everything in your head.
And Conklin's already been hurt.
Yeah.
He was their best tackle to start the season.
Mhm.
They're going to try to run the ball up the middle and make the Ravens turn the ball over. I contest that the only way you're going to beat this Ravens defense is by going no huddle. Once you have to establish saying, you know what, I don't care if Lamar's on the field. Like, I'm not trying to beat the Ravens 17-14. You got to try to score 40 points against us. Get Pierce tired. Get Travis Jones tired. When these guys are fresh, we are so dominant. And trust me, just so we're clear, I love the Ravens. Like, I love the Ravens more than anything. I just felt I didn't love the chemistry going into the season. Felt like things were off offensively. But it just, man, things are clicking. And if a team feels like they're just going to run the ball and then huddle up and let us scheme against them and end up in the 3rd and 6, they're just going to be stuck. We're going to force turnovers. I'm very, very optimistic about this week.
Yeah, and I completely agree. If you give Roquan and them an opportunity, even in the sense of when you're slowing the game down offensively, the defense has time to analyze how you're lined up, where you're going, motions. And so going no huddle kind of speeds that up. They're more in reactive instead of attack mode. And if the Ravens defense is in attack mode, see you next week.
And Watson's not capable of, right?
No.
The only quarterbacks that would be capable of beating the Ravens at the line of scrimmage. We'll see that guy on Thursday. I don't like saying his name; he scares me the most.
Yeah.
Kansas City's got a guy that's pretty good, but there's only a handful of teams that would have the balls, frankly, to go no huddle. That's why these teams. There's a lot of groupthink in the NFL. There's a lot of groupthink in general, but in the NFL, there's a ton of groupthink. And I think the thought process right now against the Ravens is keep Lamar off the field. And I'm saying you're looking at the Ravens the wrong way. You got to make Lamar play from behind, because as soon as we get the lead, it's like, man, our 2nd and 5s feel like they're just automatic. You never know what's going to happen. Everybody's getting fed. So let's switch over to offense. I told you I was going to throw something out to you. I wanted to surprise you with this. I love to look at usage rate. It's like my favorite thing as a nerd. I just love usage rate. Do you know Gus Edwards' usage rate this year? It's unbelievable. He is so fresh. I think this is going to be – so he's obviously had a great season, but because there's so much attention on this game, I think he's going to have kind of a signature – I don't know if signature is the right way. But so last week, obviously in the blowout, 18% of the snaps for Gus Edwards. The week before, 52%, 50%. His high was 69% in week 4, but it's like 43, 44. He's going to be so fresh. I know that you borderline lost your mind here this week looking at Keaton Mitchell. I felt like I should have sent you like a text message to make sure that you're
I've been on
there. But Keaton Mitchell, he complements everything we're doing. But go ahead. Talk about how efficient this offense is and specifically how you think we're going to beat the Browns.
I think you hit the nail on the head with Gus being fresh, and that's what is going to make this team so dangerous. And now you add in a Keaton Mitchell along with Justice Hill, so that now Gus doesn't have to take those extra carries in the 1st and 2nd quarter, and then game on the line 4th quarter. A fresh Gus Edwards is the last thing a defense wants to, a tired defense who's been chasing Lamar around all game. Last thing they want to see is, now we have to stop a fresh Gus Edwards who's only has, 11 carries on the day.
Well, I was going to say, so Cleveland goes into this game. They got Myles Garrett. They have a handful of other players. Their linebacker, his name's a good one, Owasu Koromoa.
Yeah.
He's going to be used primarily.
Joker. I just know everyone calls him Joker. That's how I just easily know it.
I play enough Madden that I guess I've heard his name. So anyway, he's going to spy Lamar. I mean, look, you have to have multiple ways to go against Lamar. Jim Schwartz has a great mind. He's a great defensive coordinator. What do you think their strategy is? We know that the Ravens are super diversified. If you were trying to get inside Cleveland's head, what are they focusing on? Do they stack the box? Do they go after Andrews?
They are going to try to win with a 4-man rush, I believe. I think they know that their secondary is not the strongest. Their front seven is definitely their pass rush. There's a Darius Smith, Miles Garrett. That's their bread and butter right there. Those are the guys that they want to be disruptive. So I'll say they'll rush four, but like you said, it's kind of like a 5-man rush because you'll have Koromoa just kind of spying Lamar. He's going to be wherever Lamar's looking, running, Koromoa's going to be running after him. So you have that, but they're going to really try to, I think, take away Andrews, take away the middle of the field, and try to get pressure without having to go blitz man, and then you give the possibility of broken play Lamar Jackson down the sideline for 45 yards, and now we're on the 30-yard line.
And the games that Cleveland has struggled defensively, namely that Colts game that was a back and forth where the Colts put up a ton of points, if they don't get home, the biggest weakness, you touched on it, Denzel Ward does a great job, but after him, there's a lot to be desired in the secondary. If you had to, I know there's a gambling company that I'm running here, if you had to give the fans a receiver to check out for on offense that's going to get beat for that's going to beat the Browns for 60, 70 yards, is it Bateman? Is it Beckham?
I was just going to say it's Bateman. It's Bateman. And the guy, I'll give him credit. I was not a fan of him after the first few weeks here. I thought his head wasn't in it. He just wasn't giving it his all. The man has hit his stride over the past 2 weeks. And really, we saw that big where he wrestled the ball away in was that the Cardinals game? Yeah, where he wrestled. Yeah, Cardinals game. And so that was kind of like a big confidence boost for him. He made some more catches in the Seahawks game. I think he's really starting to get back to that level of, now there's Mark Andrews. People are worried about Zay Flowers. Odell's got the touchdown monkey off his back. It's like those guys are starting to, get attention. And then all of a sudden, like you said, holy crap, Rashad Bateman's running unmanned 60 yards down the field.
That's the only thing missing from 2019 is it felt like we had a handful of bombs in 2019. Yeah. And now I think teams are going to cheat up. We run a lot of screens, a lot of quick passes, and man, it's going to be exciting to see how this team continues to develop. Should be a great game. Anything else that I missed on that you wanted to point out for this game that you're looking for?
So we talked about him a little bit. I'm most excited. I'm not going to say Keaton Mitchell's going to have an insane game or repeat what he did, but I'm interested to see how Todd Monken utilizes him. Is it still, okay, we're going to give him 10 handoffs? Is it like we saw him the first time we saw him where he's coming around on end arounds? Is it going to be he's in the slot and we throw screens to him? So I'm interested to see how they use that new weapon. They've obviously seen what he's capable of, but just adding that different element to the offense. I'm interested to see how what his snap usage looks like.
I know you gave yourself a hard time last week as the Ravens kicked the Seahawks ass because you're like, oh, this is like a Justin Tucker game. Are you going to be nervous again? It's okay. I'd rather you be wrong. This is 17-14, but what do you think? How's it going to finish out?
As much as I want to say we should win this easily, I just know it's AFC North football. And even if we're up 14, 17 in the fourth quarter, somehow this will turn into a 7-point game with 30 seconds left. And so I'll say we win by one score. We'll win by one score. I'm not sure if that's, 1 or 7, but it's going to be a 1-score game.
And you know what? Maybe we should probably putting you on the spot here, but we'll get together and so we can do a podcast before the Ravens-Bengals game on Thursday. Yeah. To me, it feels like that's going to be – I feel like we're going to handle business. I got a good feeling. I hope I'm not freaking jinxing it now because every time else I'm winning, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a close game. I don't know how we're going to win. But like you said it, I think you said it best. We're playing a team that's going to have a very similar strategy than what we're used to the past few weeks. And my 2 cents on the Ravens defense right now, to say it again, is until you spread us out and you try to beat us through the air, throwing the ball 60 times, if you think you're going to run the ball on us, I think you have something. The way the Titans ran the ball against us, and then they had that one run with Derrick Henry, you might get one, Maybe you'll sneak Zach Moss snuck one in there against us. Like you might get one, but as soon as you start to commit to the run and you play that 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and I think Cleveland's going to be arrogant enough to try to do that, and I think it plays right into our hands. I'm sorry, do you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think another big where we match up well against them is the physicality of putting Marlon Humphrey on Amari Cooper. I think Amari is such a talented receiver at winning physically on the line, being able to beat press coverage, where having a more physical corner like Marlon can really help us in that area, take away their biggest weapon on offense now that Nick Chubb's out.
I wanted to throw one thing at you. Trying to think of one topic that we can discuss that after we're finished with the Ravens. Yeah. Just want your 2 cents on as I get to know you a little bit better. Did you play high school sports? And if so, what sports did you play?
So I played football, which I'd like to say I was more muscular back then, but like I know the truth, I wasn't. But I had more ambition to be, go out there and so I was on the D end. I was a D end, not run stuffer, that's for sure. I was definitely not the guy they put into stop the run up the middle.
So okay, so I'm setting you up this way because one of the topics was the high school coach that punched the kid. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So for those of you that didn't see it, some kid came off the field. I didn't read the whole story, but an assistant coach just like punched him, and it's like, anyway, a lot of people, and it's okay, but it's the easiest topic to like come on the next day and be like, oh, you should never hit people, and feel like that's low hanging fruit. Like I'd rather get a little bit more into the psychology of coaching. So I wanted to throw something at you. When you're a player and everybody responds to different things, whether you're a high school player, college player, whether you're a good player, whether you're not that great of a player, when we look at the style of coaching and to translate it, to the Ravens to some extent, what I wanted to pick your brain about is what do you think is nowadays, right? As have options to do so many things. Do you think the effective way of coaching, like there is anymore it's effective to yell and scream and get in a kid's face and motivate that way? And respond to my theory on things now is kids have so many options and everything now is a sales job. And if you don't approach it that way and you think that this is your only option, and if you don't do it this way, blah, blah, the transfer portal, that's the number one thing. And that's a high school thing. I can't tell you how many, I coached basketball for 4 years. I'd see this kid at one high school that I see him like, hey, weren't you at this school last year? And now, and my last point is options beyond sports. Like there's so many fun things to do if you're 15 years old right now that I wanted to just know, because you're about 10 years younger than me. Do you think there's any effectiveness anymore to screaming and yelling, whether or not, obviously you don't put your hands on anybody, but what about just this is what you have to do and there's no other way to do it?
I think it all, like kind of how you said it, every player is coached differently. I think the ones that truly want to be great and want to be the best that they can be and don't necessarily take criticism personally, I think there's still room for that in coaching and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to see, like you said, so many times it's, we see the story on ESPN, so-and-so didn't get along with the coach entering the transfer portal. So-and-so didn't get along with, this assistant entering the transfer portal. And it is kind of the reality of where we are with all these options and stuff that a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm not getting playing time my first, year. The coach must not like me, stuff like that. So it is, I would say, probably one of the tougher times to ever be a coach, because you have to find the players that you can be in their face and that's how you motivate them. But then you also have to realize now the players that if you yell at, they'll just leave. Whereas I guess before you never really had that, fear.
I just think the yelling is played out. It doesn't work. Screaming and yelling as a way to motivate in a negative way, it's just never, I don't think it works. It's a military mindset. It's you don't have any other options, and that's just not the position these kids are in. And I hear a lot of coaches complain about, oh, how am I supposed to do this? And the parents are doing this. and everybody's in my way, and and like you said, it's a hard time to be a coach. But I also feel like that's just playing the victim. Well, you communicate better, and it is a sales job. They have other things to do, and you shouldn't be entitled as a coach to think otherwise. So I wanted freaking to get on. I used you to get on my high horse here for 2 seconds, because as a coach, we have to be better, and you have to explain why a kid's doing something wrong. You can critique, you can communicate in a way that can be harsh, but the yelling, and maybe I'm rambling and I'm not doing a good job communicating what I want to say, but I feel like the yelling aspect needs to be removed. You yell to encourage, but if you think you're going to scare the kid into doing it, and if it works momentarily, all you're doing, and this is my last point, all you're doing is teaching that kid off the field that yelling works. And what does that translate to? That translates to a whole bunch of bad things. It's not how you treat people. So I wanted to say that, yeah, obviously punching somebody is bad.
Yeah, that definitely. I think everyone can get on that same page. Do not, as coaches, do not punch your players on the sideline. That was not, or ever, I should clarify that.
But stop the yelling too. It's the same, that intimidation, because that's what it leads to, right?
Yeah, and so many times you see coaches, player messes up and they're like grabbing the face mask, getting in their face about how and like I said, some players, they don't, that doesn't faze them. They're in the heat of the moment either. But it is at this time where there's just so many better ways to do it. And especially I feel like we're in a time where players and coaches are more cognizant of, okay, there needs to be a middle ground of how do we communicate better and get our point across without suddenly being like, okay, we don't like each other, you can get out of here or I'm leaving. Because I mean, even when I was in, God, so this would be 7 years ago, high school, I was, we had 3 players leave. So it's like, just, mid-season, it wasn't even really about football. They were just like, and we had to deal with that. It's like, okay, like next man up, I guess.
My point guard lost the game one time. Like, it was his fault. He didn't play very well. And I'm thinking, like, what am I going to say to him? Like, I'm thinking about it, right? And I'm walking over. And as I'm walking over, his father says, "You effing lost us the game." And he said, I like blacked out. He just kept going and going. And so we get into the locker room, and I'm like, well, new speech, because that hurt his feelings more than anything. Nothing I can say. Or just lose perspective when, anyway. So I wanted to set that up, because just wanted to get that off my chest, and to bring it all the way home to the Ravens is you see that with our coordinators, right? Like the mild manneredness, the way to empower. It almost feels like Lamar can say whatever he wants. Roquan can say whatever he wants. And it's turned into a sales job, which is, we're going to win the Super Bowl if you do what I tell you to do on defense. And then if you guys want to joke around, you want to whatever, that's fine. But the sales job is, we're going to win if you listen to me. And whatever McDonald's communicating on Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's just working. Everybody feels empowered. And anyway, thanks for doing this.
Another fun time. Hopefully we can go 5-0. Streak is on the line. Pressure's on.
Yeah, and again, if guys want to follow Zach, it's turning into my favorite follow here on Twitter. I don't know how often he sleeps, but he's always bringing up things where if you forget Santander hit a home run in the middle of May, Zach will remind you.
Yeah, so, if I randomly think about it, I will make sure my entire Twitter feed now has to think about it too. So, random sports highlight that you did not know you needed to remember in your life, I will bring it back.
And your podcast, the podcast is great. It's Mondays and Thursdays, right?
Yeah. So we had Dean Kramer on last night. One of the, I will say, chillest dudes I have ever talked to. I am a massive Dean Kramer fan now. I mean, was a big fan before, but he might be my favorite player on the team now. He's one of the coolest guys ever. I learned that the pitch comm gets more aggressive in your ear for off speed than fastballs. So little tidbit there.
And again, when you start betting on baseball, which everybody's going to do, most people have to bet. That's the way of doing it. Find your Zacks to find this information to be like, wait, why do I need to know that? And then when Kramer's pitching, and then it's like, anyway, it all adds up. Get your Zach, thanks again. I really appreciate it. And have a good weekend.
You too.
Cool. See you soon, buddy.
Oh,
you got one more thing?
Oh, no.
Oh, all right. We can see it.